Hello.
And on the moon, and we also have
Khalid of Wands.
Khalid of Wands, Kevin,
Podcaster Kevin.
podcaster Kevin.
And Pavlina, hi.
Pavlina, hi. Thank you for coming along. So tonight's podcast, we are going to have a little chat about the sun. Okay, so the reason we're talking about the sun is because I think pretty much everybody on this planet who has not studied astrology, which is probably most people haven't compared to those that have, they just think astrology is all about the sun sign. I think that's what I thought. And I think that's what everybody I know thinks, until you kind of look into astrology, where you discover there is a lot more to it than just the sun sign. It doesn't mean that the sun sign isn't kind of like, you know, all the things you may find out about your sun sign. However, that is really taking that one part of astrology out of context, because the sun is kind of, yes, it is at the center of the whole solar system, but all of those other planets that are going around it, including us, have energies too that relate to the sun and to each other and to us. So that's my little mini introduction. We all know what our sun signs are. Let's start off with the sun sign. Let's give it a little bit of credit. I'm Aquarius, okay. Kevin?
Libra.
Pavlina?
Sagittarius.
Yes, and Khalid.
Leo.
King Leo.
I thought you were going to roar then.
Then in Leo style.
That's kind of interesting. So we've got two air signs here, myself and Kevin, and then we've got two fire signs here. So, I mean, how much do you actually think you do relate to your actual sun sign? We won't spend too long on this because we want to get to the point of the podcast, but me as an Aquarian, I can really see some of the Aquarian kind of, you know, keywords that I do relate to. Definitely, but I know there's a lot more to me, and that some of that relates to the other planets, but I do feel that I'm quite an independent person, and I would put that up there in Aquarius. And I also do feel that I am a bit kind of, I'm going to use the word eccentric, but I'm not exactly a run of the mill person, and I think that's a bit of an Aquarian trait. And I am in my head a lot as well. I definitely kind of, with it being an air sign, I live by what goes on in my head much more than kind of the other elements as well. And that might be down to the fact that I've also got a Gemini moon, but I can see some of the Aquarian things are kind of up the top of my character descriptions. What about you, Kevin, with your Libra sun?
Yeah, I mean, also the hard part for me is that I have so many planets in Libra. I do relate to Libra a lot, but I also I do feel the other three majors, my rising and my moon, are very, very big in who I am. And yeah, so really I see the Libra a lot because I have so much Libra in my chart, but the other ones do a lot more once I learned about them.
Yeah, I mean, just so people kind of know, you've got, tell us what you've got in Libra as well as the sun.
I've got Sun, I've got Saturn, I've got it right here. Oh, here we go. Got it. That was easy view. I've got in Libra, Sun, Saturn, Mercury, Pluto, I think it is, and Jupiter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very Libra. So it must be kind of hard to sort of sometimes distinguish which of those comes down to the sun part of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's probably easier to kind of like identify the characteristics that are to do with like your rising sun and your moon that are not in Libra. But
very much so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Pavlina?
So I've got sun and moon in Sagittarius. I'm a new moon baby.
Right.
So I always love traveling as well. So
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's related to the sun, to look at the things from the positive side. That could be moon as well, the thinking. But I believe as well the education from side of my father was like really
Mm.
good in the past.
And I also think the fact that you've got this interest in astrology as well, I mean, that could well be a sort of Sagittarian
Yeah.
kind of thing. You know, that might lend itself to that as well, that you're here. I wonder how many astrologers are kind of like Sagittarius suns. I mean, it'd be interesting to do a sort of survey on that sort of thing. But anyway,
Yeah.
Harley, how about yourself and the Leo?
Well, in my case, it's pretty complicated, I would say. I definitely do feel it, but not in a. I feel it in from across let's say a set of filters, right?
Okay.
And I think the reason for that is that the moon sign I have and the rising sign I have are pretty different from the sun sign and pretty different from each other, right?
Right.
So I've got a Cancer moon and I've got a Capricorn ascendant or rising sign.
Yes.
And so both of the, I mean, the Leo, the Cancer, and the Capricorn, they're ruled by planets that are very different in character. And even the way that these signs are positioned on the zodiac wheel, they're not really harmonious. You know what I'm saying? Um, so basically, just to keep it on the shorter side, um, I guess qualities that are definitely. So I have two planets in Leo actually. It's the Sun and Venus, right? And both
Oh,
of them
okay.
are personal planets, right?
That's very interesting. Sorry to
Yeah,
jump in on that because Leo is directly opposite Aquarius, which I am.
yeah,
And I have Aquarius and Venus in Aquarius so I've got the Sun and Venus in Aquarius, and
yeah,
you've got the Sun and Venus in Leo.
yeah,
Yet we still get on very well, even though those things are opposite. And it's
yeah.
probably our other things that we have in common rather than those. I don't know. I don't know how much that
Yeah. Well,
made
no,
us
I mean, opposition is one of the more trickier things because it might mean complementarity as well, right?
Yeah.
You know, because
So I interrupted
yeah,
you, but
yeah.
sorry. Yes.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, qualities like mm, like I guess having an innate sense of uh how and why. Okay, how to kind of get in touch with your own sense of worth and of meaning, you know, and not. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk, like, and you especially read this or hear it from just any mainstream kind of pop astrology kind of source that, oh, the Leo thing is to seek attention and get validation from others. I don't really see that in myself. It's just more like kind of like I I'm happy just kind of being who I am, you know, at a very fundamental level. That doesn't mean that I feel like, you know, I'm on the top of the world every day, not at all, you know. But at a very fundamental level, like I don't feel like I'm lacking in my soul, in the depths of my soul, right? So I
Right.
feel I relate that to the fixity of fire because it's like it's a very mysterious kind of sense of self-sufficiency, right? Um, that's one way that I feel it. And the other way is that definitely pride, you know.
Pride. Yes.
Pride definitely. I feel like pride and respect are super important to me in any context. And yeah, it's like disrespect is definitely a very quick deal breaker for me, any relationship. And I'm as much as I'm kind of sensitive to kind of boundary crossing or disrespectful behavior from the other side, if I catch myself like uh, behaving inappropriately to someone, then I'll hold myself immediately and accountable and apologize, you know, because for me that's like just unacceptable. Another thing is,
Do you put that down to the Leo as well? That
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because like you know, I understand how important it is for me, so I do understand how important it should be for others, right? And also allergy to dishonesty, just this dishonest and kind of underhanded and devious, like devious ways of communication and interaction with people, you know. And this is connected to the other thing, which is gullibility, unfortunately.
Oh, that's interesting. So would
It's
you
like
say Leo can be gullible then?
absolutely, absolutely. And especially, I mean, it depends on um where Leo files in the chart. Like if it falls in a house like the eighth in my case, which is the house of shared resources, where you start to mingle, your energies mingles with the energies of others, you can very easily get
Well, this is
exploited.
interesting what you're saying, because you're already kind of like opening up the fact that it's not just what your sun sign is, but it's where it is in your
Yes.
chart
Hmm.
and how it is either connected or not connected to other things in your chart. So yes, your sun sign is important, but there's a lot more to it than just, oh, I'm an Aquarius because of the date I was born. You know, I happen to be born on the 30th of January, you know. So that makes me an Aquarius, the same as everybody else who's walking around the planet who was born around the same time. We're all exactly the same because we're Aquarius. No, that is just the icing on the cake. It doesn't mean that's not important, but it's very, very much out of context. And I think that's what people don't understand. And I think astrology gets a kind of like a bad press because it's kind of all based on what's in a magazine with your sun sign, and it's like, you know, there's just 12 different possibilities for everyone on the planet, and that's it. So
Right. Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
And this just
apparently
yeah.
also, I do want to say, I think the sun being this very sort of important part of a chart, or the most important, is actually quite a recent thing. I mean, we've said this before. I mean, astrology goes back thousands of years, but all this kind of attention on the sun, it's what, about 150 years or something like that. It's very recent in the grand scheme of things.
It is, yeah. I think it picked up pace like in the early 20th century, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly of the date, should have looked that up, but yeah. So I mean, I kind of personally feel that my moon and rising sign are just as kind of resonant for me, even taking them out of context, right? You know, without even relating things to each other, as my sun sign is. The fact that I've got this Gemini moon, I'm always going on about my Gemini moon, right? You know, it's like the
Yeah.
moon is your kind of what do you call it, kind of subconscious. So you act upon that sometimes without even thinking and I just find myself instinctively kind of like distracting myself without deciding to distract myself. I it's very, very easy for me to get distracted, and that I put absolutely down to the Gemini moon. And I think that's quite a big part of who I am, to be honest.
Yeah. Same
Just
here.
as much
Yeah.
as all the things relating to the sun sign. And we haven't even talked about, you know, me and my Taurus rising and how I could
Yeah.
easily sit there and
Yeah.
think about food all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like maybe a shorthand formula that people could use to figure out kind of what's the difference, what's at stake in defining themselves according to the sun sign versus the moon sign versus the rising sign is, think of the rising sign as the outfit that you're kind of born with, right?
Yes.
That it just kind of is the immediate way that that you're wired to represent yourself to the world, and other people are kind of positioned to perceive you as, right? It's just the outfit, right?
Yeah.
And then the moon sign, okay, the sun sign is more of the conscious part of the self, okay? And the moon sign is the more subconscious part of the self. So you have more control, let's say, or at least at the very least, more awareness of your sun sign qualities, or you need less effort to be more aware of them, maybe, and more effort to be actually aware of your moon sign qualities, rather than just kind of like habitually living them out, you know? Yeah.
What about you, Kevin? Do you feel that your moon and rising sign are as much a part of you as your sun sign is?
Oh yeah. So I mean, even though I've got so much in Libra, but it's exactly like you said. I am Aries rising, so like I have that cardinal energy, just like my sun sign. But the biggest one I notice, especially because I'm at home a lot, is when I'm at home is the Taurus, because in both Taurus and Libra, I've got the Venus and the loving of pretty things and the consuming everything I can. But yeah, so those are, I see those more than I do the Libra a lot now, that because I'm looking at myself more. I'm looking introspectively. And so so the moon is definitely something I see a lot in my life right now. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. So the interesting thing is that Kevin and I, our sun is both in air signs, although I'm Aquarius, which is a different type of air sign to Libra, but nevertheless we are both air signs. So we find it very easy to communicate with each other, that sort of thing. We've got things to say, but also we both have the Taurus rising, so we just have a kind of a fundamental kind of similarity, kind of like an understanding going on there with that. And what about you, Pavlina? What's your moon and rising?
So I'm Scorpio rising and moon in Sagittarius.
Scorpio rising and moon. So you got your moon and your sun in Sagittarius. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got the fire sign sun, which would be you and Harley would have some kind of like understanding of each other.
I think I understand more about Khalid because my sister is a sun in Leo.
Ah.
Okay.
Oh, I kind of know what you talk about.
Now
That's not a bad thing.
There is an interesting thing here as well, and the fact is you've got Sagittarius moon and I've got a Gemini moon.
Yeah.
So your moon and my moon are directly opposite each other, but the one thing they do have in common is that they are both mutable signs,
Yeah.
which means they're both changeable. So to some degree, I would get, subconsciously, I would have that kind of oh, my dog, sorry, right, total distraction, but I would have that sort of understanding of your moon, that side of it. And likewise, Kevin, what's your moon again?
Taurus. Aries is my rising.
Oh, Aries is your rising.
Yeah, we share. My moon is your rising.
It's right. It's your moon, right? I'm getting it the wrong way around. Yes, of course, Aries is your rising. So yeah, so I would understand your moon via my rising sign, in a sense. I would have some understanding of that. See, I can't relate. So you've all got the fire sign thing going on, the three of you there, because you've got the Aries rising, you've got the Sagittarius moon, and Harley has got the sun in Leo. So all of the fire signs are kind of like connected between you three, whereas I don't have any of the kind of my main three in any of the fire signs. So when we're relating to each other, like other people, don't just kind of look at their sun sign. That's what I'm trying to say. You might have a commonality with them via one of the other kind of like main parts of the chart.
Yeah. And I know, I mean, this is like beyond the scope of this episode, but it's also really worth thinking about the other three personal planets besides the sun and the moon, right? And those are Mercury, Venus, and Mars, because they represent essential components of the psyche. And so, Mandy, for example, I think the fact that you have Mars in Sagittarius, that to me at least,
it is.
And I think to others that does convey some fiery qualities that you have, and in a very typically Sagittarian way,
Yes.
So those 5 planets, as well as the angles, the ascendant, the rising sign, and then the other 3 angles, which we'll talk about later at later points. And those all the signs that they're positioned in all do have a kind of a stamp, like a visible stamp on your personality, on the way you appear to the world, and also the way that you can understand yourself.
And I definitely kind of like feel that all of these, we're all walking around with this combination of the energies of all of these planets, not just the sun, and we are affected by what is going on in the sky at the same time. So it could well be that, you know, Venus in the sky is in one place, isn't it, in Capricorn or something at the moment, right? You know, and that's going to affect maybe your rising sign, Khalid, because
it is affecting my sign.
yeah.
Actually,
Right?
as we're speaking, both Mars and Venus in Capricorn are
Yes.
sitting on my ascendant.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So you'll feel the kind of impact of that. Whereas that's, well, I don't know, I mean, it could be affecting my ascendant being Taurus, because I've got an earth sign, you know, ascendant, but it could be affecting me in a different kind of way. So it's very complex, astrology, but I think what it does, it also lets you know how complex we all are as individuals and how individual we all are, because we're all a combination of all these things, but in different ways. And I think that's really, really fascinating. And I think it's doing it a real disservice that so much importance is put on just the sun sign. It's not that the importance that's put on the sun sign is wrong, but I think equal importance should be put on everything else as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people would be quite surprised when they discover that, you know?
Yeah, and I felt like it was really important to emphasize this point even during this conversation, because on the one hand, in the center, I put the Leo sun to kind of cater to the mainstream perspective that you are the sun sign.
Yes.
But on the right hand, I have my Cancer moon.
Oh.
Yeah. And my Capricorn ascendant. La la la.
My God. Oh my God. That's amazing. And as we are literally recording this right now, because obviously, I mean, this podcast may be online for thousands of years, but we are literally within 24 hours of there being a full moon in Leo. You know, now I kind of like, I'm thinking here, how does that affect your sun sign, Harley, that full moon in Leo? How does it affect, you know, your Aries rising, and how does it affect my Mars, if you like, and your probably your
Sagittarius,
Sagittarius,
sun and moon.
Sagittarius, sun and moon. I mean, that's the full moon. That's the full moon in Leo. So that's going to kind of affect each and every one of us here, and probably everybody else out there in one way or another.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Any other comments on the sun signs?
Well, I would say I would say I think there are many people who dismiss astrology because they go along with the, let's say, the mainstream packaging of astrology that tells them that they are their sun signs, and then they know their sun signs, and then what they read doesn't match what they the sun sign that they have in mind, right? But it could be that the reason that the message isn't resonating is that they don't know all of these other sensitive placements in their charts, which include the moon sign, the rising sign, and the distribution of all the other planets in the other signs as well, and the aspects they're making with each other.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think people are kind of like missing out really from sort of understandable ignorance, because I was one of those people. I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew my date meant I was Aquarius. And then you will get people, and you hear this all the time, like, I would never go out with an Aries, or I don't want anything to do with it. And, you know, all of that sort of thing. And it's like, well, the love of your life might come along, who's absolutely wonderful and marvelous, but hate to say this, they're an Aries, so forget it. No, I mean you've got to look at the whole picture before you make sweeping judgments like that.
Yeah, and there is no sign that is just one flat thing. Every sign has a light and shadow
Unless
side,
you're
and it's
Kevin and you've virtually got everything in Libra.
no, I'm saying like no sign is just like good has like predominantly good qualities or predominantly negative qualities. It's
That's
everything is like it's a spectrum, and
yes.
what part of the spectrum gets manifested in a person's personality, that depends on their upbringing, their like life circumstances, and how well they can evolve, you know, how well they handle their own process of growth and maturation. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, I think this is like kind of a short and sweet little podcast, to be honest, because you know what we really wanted to say was don't just kind of like make sweeping judgments that all you are or anybody is just their sun sign. There's a whole lot more that's kind of really, really relevant, and context and placement and relationships between that sun sign and everything else before you can kind of like judge either your own kind of like astrology, and never mind how it relates to anybody else's or what's going on at a given moment in time. It's a concept that is full of layers of information and connections, and that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
It really,
Totally
really
agreed.
is.
Yeah.
And
I was
once,
gonna say,
yeah,
real quick, we haven't said anything about this. How, if someone doesn't know, how do you find out your rising and your moon sign?
Ah,
well,
well,
first of all, just send us a message, right? It's not difficult. It's really not a difficult thing to find it out, but to be really accurate about it, if you either know or can find out your birth time, it's better.
so this is an interesting point because the rising sign changes roughly every 2 hours.
Mhm.
It might change like quicker or more slowly depending on what latitude you are on the earth, right? The time you're born. So that's a pretty quick change. So that's why it makes it very important for so for you to have a proper birth, like an accurate birth chart, right, which is necessary for accurate predictions and accurate interpretations. You like the more accurate you are about your birth time, the closer you are down to the very minute. I mean, the better chance you're giving yourself to get a good reading, and the easier you're making the job of the astrologer to read for you, right? That's one thing. And the other thing is also the moon moves pretty quickly. That's 2.5 days pretty much through a whole sign. There are some cases where if you get, even if you, let's say, if the time difference that we're talking about is just an hour, right? Across that 1 hour, the moon might have moved in a person's chart from Aries to Pisces. So that's a huge difference. So it's important to know the right time of birth, not only for the rising sign, but also for the moon sign very often, you know? Yeah, and it's like, it's just, I mean, personally, it just makes me feel sad because I do feel like astrology has a huge part to play in the formation of our personalities, and just it has so much information to give us about what challenges we like to meet, we're likely to meet in our lives, what are our greatest gifts, what are the best ways to develop them, etc. And so the more careful you are, right, in recording the timing of a person's birth, right, then the greater the service you're doing to astrology and to the person as well, So
Definitely.
yeah, that's why I feel like, every hospital,
I
every
know.
no hospital should be opened without like, a whole, I don't want to say conversion, but it's like, let's say, a lecture, like an elaborate lecture by an advanced astrologer. Like this is why you have to record every birth down to the
I know.
minute,
Now they
I
do that.
feel like saying to every woman if you have a child, right, please make sure that you kind of like let that child know their birth time,
Yeah,
you know, because
exactly.
it is such an amazingly powerful piece of information.
Yeah.
It really is.
As well, come to Friday's astrology study group.
Yes.
You can
Yeah.
find it on Meet,
That's
so
a
we
good
can
idea.
figure out for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Which is
is
really,
good.
it's really fun. We've done readings about moons and, you know, Mercury, Venus. It's really interesting to see it.
Well, the great thing about the astrology chat, and thank you for mentioning that, Pavlina, which is on Meetup, is that whatever it is we're chatting about, we get up the birth charts of everybody who's there, who's, you know, as long as you're happy for us to have your birth chart, and we will tell you how whatever it is we're chatting about relates personally to you. So yeah, very good. So I think also, you know, the more you kind of come to sort of various podcasts and things like that, you start to realize the complexity of astrology and how the sun definitely has its important place, but so does everything else. So yeah, that really was the point of this podcast. So unless anyone's got anything else they really want to say, this is Aquarius sun over and out.
Capricorn sun over and out.
Yes.
Libra everything.
Libra everything over and out.
Hope you enjoyed it, guys. See you next time.
See you, Pavlina. What are you checking out with?
Sorry?
Which sign of yours are you checking out with?
I think we'll be Sagittarius.
You're Sagittarius. See you next time. Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
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 Thank you for engaging with us. Please like, subscribe and share. To book a personal, in-depth reading and to learn more about our incredible courses in tarot and astrology, please visit our website www.thepomegranate.grove.com.